Today, my colleagues, is a sad day. It is a sad day for us. It's a sad day for this institution. And it is a sad day for America. We have lost a wonderful human being, a good and decent human being, a human being who made a difference for this institution, for all of us who knew him, were his friend, for his constituents, and for all Americans. All of us in this House lost a respected colleague. Many of us lost a dear, long-time, good friend. He came in '96 to this body, and every time I ran for a leadership position, my friend Elijah Cummings nominated me. The passing this morning of Chairman Elijah Cummings of the Committee on Oversight and Reform was a painful shock to all who have served with him. More, of course, to his family. Dr. Rocky Moore Cummings, his wife, his children, his 3 children. Elijah was a prophet of God whose name means, "My God is the Lord." Elijah Cummings was true to his name. He was a leader for our country, for our state of Maryland, and we have the members, including our favorite daughter. He was a leader for our state. He was a leader like our brother John Lewis for principle, for comedy, for civility. He was a quiet man who did not seek the limelight, but he was not afraid to step out into the arena and fight hard for the causes in which he believed strongly. And as all of us know, those causes were justice, equality, opportunity, civil rights, education, children. He liked to say that children are the message we send to a future that we will never see. His parents sent Elijah into the future, and how much better the future was. He was beloved by his constituents, both those in the city of Baltimore and those in its suburbs. And indeed, Elijah was probably better loved in my district than I am. Most of my colleagues will understand that, of course. He worked hard. Even in his final days, the Speaker is going to speak, and I'm sure she will say something about a telephone call she had with him just days ago, doing the people's business. As his health faltered, his passion for his work did not. In the days ahead, we will have many opportunities, of course, to speak about our friend Elijah, about his passion for service, his many contributions to Maryland and our nation, and his deep convictions as a moral leader and a man of decency and love for his neighbor. Some of you will recall Elijah at the time of great distress in Baltimore, anger, outbursts. And Elijah walked among them as a man of peace. And like no other person in our state, brought peace where there was no peace. We'll have opportunities to remember that, and we have a chance to reflect on the love he had for his wife Maya and for his 3 children. Today, in remembering Elijah Cummings, we have a chance to promote the vision he held of the people's house coming together in a spirit of unity and purpose. Sadly, today, that purpose is to mourn his passing and remember a dear friend who will no longer be with us as we continue his work to which he gave his all. But hopefully, his example will be with us. Elijah used to say when he saw conflict and confrontation, when he saw things he thought were not up to the standards we had set for our country and for ourselves because of our faith or our Constitution and our Declaration, he would say, we're better than that. Let us all say, as we human beings do things that from time to time are not kind to one another, not thoughtful, not respectful to one another, let us say to ourselves, we are better than that. That's what Elijah said to himself. In that spirit of unity, I will be yielding shortly to the Republican leader to share his reflections. But first, as I referred to her as Maryland's favorite daughter, I am honored to yield to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi D'Alessandro. Now, she would say Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. I understand that. But we are so proud of our Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. It's a very disconcerting day for so many of us here. Thank you, Mr. Hoyer, for bringing us together to mourn the loss of our dear friend and colleague, Elijah Cummings. Thank you for your beautiful statement calling forth so many of the beautiful attributes of Elijah Cummings. As you spoke, I was reminded of how he always was a calming of the waters. No matter how rough and tumble things would be, he would always just calm the waters, reach out, whether it's across the aisle or across the issue, across the Capitol, down Pennsylvania Avenue. I know that the people of Baltimore, the U.S. Congress, and America have lost a voice of unsurpassed moral clarity and truth, our beloved Mr. Chairman, Elijah Cummings. I'm personally devastated by his passing, as I know many of us are, and we have the flowers in his place where he sat, where we all sought counsel, learned more, were calmed down, were lifted up by the wisdom and the graciousness and the goodness of Elijah Cummings. In the House, Elijah was a North Star. He was a leader of towering character and integrity, whose stirring voice and steadfast values pushed the Congress and the country to give rise to a higher purpose of why are we here. His principled leadership as the chair of the Committee on Oversight and Reform was a perfect testament to his commitment to restoring honesty and honor to government, and leaves a powerful legacy for years to come. As a senior member of now people think of him as that chairman, but meaning so much to him was his role as a senior member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. He was always fighting for his district, for his state of Maryland, and for the country. He was a powerful voice for building the infrastructure of America and for creating good-paying jobs. He's a working-class guy in terms of who he was here to serve. I was very proud of him as a member of the U.S. Naval Academy Board of Visitors. He took great pride in the Naval Academy, his role on the board, and Maryland's role in our national security. I know we have some Naval Academy grads here, and that was a source of great pride to me. He said, "You've taken me to a new level of decision-making in terms of national security." Chairman Cummings' story was the story of America, a sharecropper's son who dedicated his life to advancing justice, respecting human dignity, as you said, and ending discrimination. He believed in the promise of America because he had lived it, and he dedicated his life to advancing those values that safeguard our republic: justice, equality, liberty, and fairness. As Mr. Hoyer said, our distinguished leader said earlier, we were always listening to Elijah, and these flowers remind me of it because of growth and renewal that are there. He said, children are the living messengers we send to the future, a future we will never see. But he also wanted to build a future that was worthy of the aspirations of our children. He always wanted to make sure that they took with them the values which nurtured him and that he was promoting in his public service. Earlier this year, Chairman Cummings, he asked us, when we're dancing with the angels, the question will be, what did we do to make sure that we kept our democracy intact? He's now with the angels, out of pain. Maya said this morning he fought the fight right up until the end, and those of us who communicated with him, I didn't know he was this close. I thought he was coming back in a few weeks. But our members, I want to say to our Republican colleagues, we had a conference call on Friday, this past Friday, not a full week ago, in which Elijah, as always, passionate about what he believed in, dispassionate in how he conveyed a plan for how we would go forward with fairness, with justice, with dignity, worthy of the oath of office that we take to the Constitution, worthy of the vision of our founders, establishing this institution, and worthy, again, of the aspirations of our children. His words, messengers to a future we will never see. His leadership made a difference in strengthening our democracy. Again, during difficult times, let us draw strength from his righteous words that the leader has been reminding us of all day. We are better than this. We are better than this. In the Congress, we'll miss his wisdom, his dignity, the brilliance of his mind, the kindness of his heart, the friendship that meant so much to us and that we could all call upon. In Baltimore, we will miss him as a champion. May it be a comfort to his wife, Maya, whom I conveyed the good wishes of the Congress, this morning. May it be a comfort to Maya, to his 3 children, and Chairman Cummings' entire family. And I want to add to that his dedicated and devoted staff in every capacity, as a member, as a chairman, as a member of a committee, whom he just treated with such fairness and respect, to his staff, too. May it be a comfort to them all that so many mourn their loss and are praying for them at this sad time. And may he always be inside of our hearts as we make decisions about our responsibilities and how we will be accountable when we are dancing with the angels. God bless you, darling Elijah. We all love you. We miss you. But we'll never forget you, and your legacy will live in the Congress of the United States, in this House of Representatives. Please to yield back, sadly.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your remarks. I know Elijah felt very strongly about you and his support of you and your leadership, and how proud he was that you were from the city of Baltimore, that he loved so greatly.
That's right.
And now I'm privileged to yield to the minority leader, another good friend of Elijah's, my friend, Mr. McCarthy from California.
I thank my friend for yielding. I thank him for his words, and I thank the Speaker. We lost more than just a member of Congress when we lost Elijah Cummings. As the Speaker spoke of his life, she talked about him bringing calmness. I want you to reflect for one moment. When have you ever served in this body that we've been this calm and this quiet and this reflective? Elijah's work is still good with us right now. Chairman Cummings had an enormous presence. There's many times he'd be an adversary. He was a respected adversary because he was tough. He had such a presence on this side of the aisle an impression that when we would sit inside our steering committee, and maybe I'm breaking a rule, we're never supposed to talk about what we say in there. When we would select a chair or a ranking member, this is the one committee we weighed who we went against. And every time we spoke of selecting an individual that can rise to the occasion, to be in debate with him, we would look for somebody that was strong. And every time someone was selected, they'd come back to be a very best friend of Elijah Cummings. It's a tough committee. It's a committee of accountability. It's a committee of debate. I can't tell you how many friends would call me and be in fear because they got a letter from Cummings. But he was a man of fairness. You don't know this because in committees at times you have these debates, but when you're sitting as a chair and a ranking member, what we would talk about are Elijah would share with us the life lessons. You know what he would say privately to the chair or the ranking member on the other side? What he would say to Jim Jordan? What he'd say to Trey Gowdy? Trey shared with me today. They never stopped talking even though he left Congress. Jim Jordan shared with me today that he was talking to Elijah just last week about committee business. Trey talked about a story that Trey was pretty tough on one person, and Trey's good. Trey could, that prosecutor in him could get to the point. And Elijah turned to him and said, she's not a government employee. She has a family and she has children. You can be a little softer next time. And that hit on his heart. And what I fear in a world today, that they, when they look at us, they get this persona through cameras and social media. But it doesn't show our character. We are the only ones who get the window into one another's character of how we act. We're the ones who should share the message. Because he was so strong in his beliefs, I'm afraid some people in America won't know what type of character he actually had. Not as a member of Congress and not as a political figure, but as a person. Because that's how I knew Elijah. He was a fighter. So many times in his life, people told him no, and he would say yes, he could. He was a leader, but not in the sense that America probably thinks as a member of Congress. His entire life, he wanted to overturn racial injustice. A member shared with me the first time he got to know him was on a Codel down in Mexico. Most of the bus people were asleep because it was one of those long trips. And Elijah sat and talked to him, and this member was from the South, and he talked how his grandparents were there, but his grandparents moved him away because he felt he would have a better chance just because of the color of his skin, that he'd get a better education. Elijah was not upset by that. He felt this country gave him the opportunity. That's why he wanted to serve. So all of us are here to honor the fortune and the privilege to know him. If you were a freshman, if you are, I hope you took a few moments with him. Because it didn't matter if you were a chair, a ranker, if you were a Republican or a Democrat, he would spend that time with you. I feel I'm better for I've known him. And I want you to know from this side of the aisle, no matter how hard of the debate we were in, I've only heard respect for how he carried out the business. We respected him because he was good. We respect him because he beat us many a times. We respect him because of what he fought for, he believed in. Our deepest prayers go to Maya, because in those life lessons and in that window that we get to see, it's not the easiest to have a family in these jobs. We have a lot of things pulled on us, but we knew where his heart stood. where his family mattered and where he continued to believe in. So yes, today we lost more than just a member. But I hope as the days progress, as the times change, and our debate gets heated again, that we reflect on this moment of calmness, reflect on this moment of thinking of one another, and we reflect on the idea that, yeah, television may give us a different persona of who we are, but yes, you and I get to see the window of the character of each and every one of us. I think that's what Elijah would want us to do. So in his honor, let's find that tomorrow will be better than today, and that this calmness will last longer than the next vote. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman for his remarks. In that spirit, Mr. Speaker, I will ask for a moment of silence. But before I do that, let me mirror the remarks of the leader on the other side of the aisle. A moment of silence will not be enough to respect the life of Elijah Cummings. What will be enough is if we follow his example for a lifetime, not for a moment, but for a lifetime. If we give one another the respect that he would give to us, if we give one another the consideration that the leader indicated that he gave to him. So, Mr. Speaker, I will ask that we stand for a moment of silence and a lifetime of following an example.
The chair asks that all members to please rise for a moment of silence in remembrance of our good friend and colleague, the Honorable Chairman Elijah E. Cummings.